Okay, so Stephen, very glad to have you with us today. We've been talking for quite a while about
Yeah.
our partnership,
Mhm.
and it's glad that we can finally kick it off with this podcast episode. So, if you'd like to kind of jump in and give a brief introduction to yourself and Port Harcourt School of AI.
Yeah. Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks, Emmanuel. Yeah, sure. We've been trying to get about this for a while now. But yeah, my name is Stephen Oladele. I'm the lead volunteer for the Port Harcourt School of AI. The Port Harcourt School of AI is a non-profit organization with the cause or the mission, per se, to democratize world-class AI and data education and opportunities to pretty much underrepresented regions and groups. And so that's what we've been doing for over 2 years now. We've been acting solely as a community, more so than a community, more so about as a community, sorry, than an organization. Really, it was only recently we started thinking about making this an actual non-profit. For over 2 years now, we've been trying to see how we can connect people with opportunities, create a community of sharing ideas, knowledge, projects, and even more so trying to educate people about data and AI technologies pretty much. So that's what we've been doing for a while now. And COVID this year we had lots of plans offline, but COVID this
Mm-hmm.
year we had to move everything on the remotely, and so we've just pretty much expanded our membership days away from Port Harcourt City, which is a city in Nigeria, now to pretty much everyone on the internet. So that's how we've been, working now. And so yeah, that's me, and that's what I thought School of AI in a nutshell. So yeah, if I mean, in the links should be in the show notes. Port Harcourt School of PhD School of AI.org is our website, so people can learn more about that.
Great. I definitely hear you on that transition, that COVID transition, because it's
Yeah.
interesting. We're trying to do the opposite. We're an online organization
Mhm.
trying to get more of a local
Okay.
presence. But I mean, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and then Emmanuel, want to kick us off about the gradient boost?
Yeah, sure. My name is Emmanuel Sivanda. I'm one of the co-founders of the Gradient Boost, along with Jasmine Devayo. I guess like to explain what we are, we call ourselves a data science as a service platform that enables companies to leverage more data science teams, and that builds a data science talent pipeline for companies looking to hire permanent talent. So what that means is that we have a training program that trains people looking to get careers in data science. We understand that training is more than just giving learners technical skills that enable them to work in data science. It also involves giving them a practical curriculum where they're exposed to like real world data, real world case studies. We try and enable that by getting projects that companies outsource to us and have data scientists who are experienced working with our fellows to ensure that our fellows, while they're learning, get practical experience. That kind of sums up how things work from our side. Do you want to like add on more, Jasmine? Maybe like explain how essentially we're building a marketplace for people looking to learn data science and companies looking to hire data scientists.
Sure. So one issue that we saw was the disconnect between data and companies. So, it's becoming increasingly essential for companies to become data driven, but a lot of companies either don't know how to, or they can, but they don't have the talent to get them there. So it's kind of like a two-sided issue. So we decided that it's only right to tackle both sides of that issue, helping those companies grow, but then also providing them with the talent and developing that talent that they need to do so. So with that in mind, the whole kind of cohesiveness comes in with companies being able to build remote teams with our assistance to tackle what they need. There's also an advisory element, of course. It's not just like you can hire somebody and then, you guys figure it out sometimes. It can't be that simple, unfortunately. So we kind of provide that kind of solution to sit on both sides of the issue. And the cool thing about it is that we have a stake in seeing the whole ecosystem grow. As companies grow, the demand for talent grows, and we win either way. So we kind of are held accountable to making sure that we do the best that we can for everybody involved. And that's why we're trying to partner with organizations like yours, Stephen, to try to make sure that we're constantly understanding real time the needs of people on both sides, trying to get a more local presence to make sure that we're understanding the unique challenges. it's interesting. So Emmanuel's from Zimbabwe and lives in South Africa for a while. I'm from the US and I lived in South Africa for a while. We started off with Nigeria and South Africa as our focus, but then we decided to focus in on Nigeria just from like the sheer like talent and potential that we're seeing. Like it's crazy. I'm impressed every single day. But with that in mind, we're being conscious of the fact that we are outsiders, although we have, advisors and people on our team from Nigeria who are definitely, we kind of defer to them in a lot of contexts. But we definitely want to get a better understanding of the challenges and how we can best position ourselves to help. Like I said, we're here to really grow the whole ecosystem as a whole. So whatever we can do to make that happen, we're happy to do.
I think part of like the focus in Nigeria is that we're seeing a very strong engineering, engineering culture in Nigeria. Is that the way to put it? Maybe that's part of the reason why it makes a lot of sense for us to focus entirely on Nigeria for the time being. It's a lot of talent that seems to be available and just sitting there. That's like seems to be ignored by people. At least in the West, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, talking about the Nigerian talent, it's really no news that we've seen a lot as a country and citizens of the country. So we're kind of driven by instinct to really look at how we can solve problems. And data science, machine learning, and AI. These are really no different. And that's one of the key reasons why I'm actually excited about this, because not just because it drives our cause of democratizing what AI education, data education, and opportunities, but it really also helps us grow the ecosystem in ways that we think are unprecedented. Partnering with data science, data education organizations like yours really helps us really kind of help our members sort of grow, not just through knowing how this works, but also solving problems, which is quite crucial because, look at the sectors in Africa, Nigeria, and everything. You kind of see those sectors where we can actually apply these technologies to them. And with organizations like yours, bringing in the needed education, and of course, definitely the opportunities as well. I don't think there's really any 2 or 3 different thoughts from, partnering with such. So hence why we felt, it's going to drive our cause of democratizing the education and the opportunities, but it's going to help us increase your reach. Of course, in Nigeria, being insiders in Nigeria as well, the community reach, and it's a win-win because if you grow, we grow, the community grows, the ecosystem grows, and that's what's important because problems get solved when each and every one of these sectors go together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another aspect is that one thing that we spoke about is that reach. Like you can definitely help us with that reach that we're trying to attain on a more local presence, and we can help you attain that reach on a more international presence. So as we grow, so we are focusing on African companies right now, but as we grow, we do intend to kind of scale to bringing African talent to the world. So Emmanuel and I actually co-founded another business prior to this where we really did try to do that. We started to see that, when it comes to other countries, they're looking to India for their talent, sometimes Ukraine, sometimes Latin America for their talent, but why was nobody looking at Africa? So, obviously there's some issues there, infrastructure, sometimes it's a time difference thing, but, at the end of the day, the talent is there. Yeah. And as we look to be able to, bring on more international projects, we're not necessarily wanting to contribute to brain drain because we are kind of working on remote engagements, but we do want to be able to give opportunities for better earnings or working on bigger scale projects with companies from abroad for local talent. But at the same time, in our training programs, we specifically focus on them working with local companies during their training for practicality purposes, but then also because at the end of the day, we want to grow the African data ecosystem. That's one of our big drivers as well. So we want to make sure that they're well versed in how to solve local problems, but then also how to be prepared to be able to solve those big startup problems as well.
Yeah, I'm actually on that note, I'm very curious to get your perspective on this, Stephen. We're seeing a very a seemingly strong demand from companies in Nigeria looking to hire data scientists, data analysts. Yeah. And we're seeing a plethora of talent, a lot of very, very strong talent from the talent pool, that is. But there seems to be, for some reason, a disconnect between, there is talent and there are jobs, but there's still scenarios where you have people who are very skilled but don't have any jobs. what exactly is the biggest issue that's going on? What's causing people who are talented not to be able to get into data science currently?
Okay, for when it comes to people having skills or not having jobs, I think it's fairly because of how that. Okay. Let me put it this way: there's this divide between what people should actually know and what they actually know. And you can, because most times when people learn these data science education, data science technologies, these are technologies that can actually work in the enterprise. So we've had situations with companies whereby things are not working fine. You're applying the conventional data science methodologies, and because the old processes of understanding the problem statement, getting the right data and everything is not working fine, companies default back to, oh, let's go with traditional software engineering. We've had two scenarios with three different companies who just go that way. So I'm always of the opinion that sometimes people are skilled and people are working in data science, but eventually they're working with companies, and companies are not seeing growth. Companies are not seeing business growth. Stakeholders are getting impatient, and hence, you have things like, oh, I don't see the need for the data scientists in my company when I'm not seeing business growth immediately, or I'm not. So I think one of the things we have to work on as people, as communities and sectors and institutions trying to grow the data ecosystem, is helping stakeholders really understand what the old data science process is. It's not a process whereby you invest now and you're seeing results in 3 months, you're seeing results in 4 months. We have to make sure that they see the end of the pipeline. They don't just see one side of things and they just figure that's where the result is. They see that the entire pipeline has to do with investment of not just money and talent, but also time as well. Because the business, of course, it takes time to understand the market. It takes time to understand the problem. It takes time to understand what data will be needed, what sort of resources will be needed to drive business growth with data. And some people don't even have the right data. They just call on data scientists. That data scientists spend much time trying to get the quality data in. But then you have companies and saying, okay, fine, we have the data, it's not working fine. Then why are we hiring you anyways? We've had situations with two companies like that before. That yes, there's talent, but then they don't really understand the methodology and they don't understand the time it would take to actually help give them the needed ROI. So I think when it comes to that side of things, companies are not really convinced that this works. At least the majority of the companies out there are not convinced that this works. And when it doesn't work the first time, most people default to the traditional side of things. So I'm either bringing in a typical software engineer, or I'm just doing things the old traditional way of way. So I think one thing we have to tackle as people or institutions trying to grow the ecosystem is that we help stakeholders really understand what data science is and what data science is not, what AI is and what AI is not, so that they can be able to understand that this takes time. Getting the ROI on this thing sometimes takes time. You might get lucky, you might see the ROI in 3 months, but then again, you might not be lucky enough to even see it in a year and 5 months, or in even 2 years, in fact. So that's one thing. Then the other side of things, the talented people not seeing jobs. I think one of the key things I'll have to point out is that, because we also hold a podcast and we talk to recruiters sometimes, and most of them talk about looking at the resume or the portfolio of data scientists and seeing that these people don't have enough experience or enough portfolio projects to really convince recruiters that they can really come on the job. Because most of them will say that, oh, we have talents that we think are funny, right? Because they've not really put anything out there already that can really convince the technical recruiter that, oh, this can work fine, or the chief data scientist that this person can actually come into their company and transform some of their processes. So if it's a talent there and you think you have the talent, you think you have the skills, it's all about put yourself out there, the projects, your portfolios and everything. I think it's going to work out fine. And also, I think it's also the same thing with remote companies. Remote companies want to see what you've done. How have you deployed? What have you deployed? How many deployment scenarios can you work on? How can you work on a team? How can you collaborate on projects with a team? What's your code base like? How do you write code and things like that? So I think these are really the disparities that come to mind, because one is because we see this pretty much every time with companies defaulting to the traditional way of doing things because they are not seeing ROI yet, and with talent not putting enough projects out there to convince recruiters. And of course, there are other side of things, talents, things like, job preparedness. People really don't know how to, compose their CV well enough, their resume, or people don't even know how to compose themselves in interviews, or they don't even know what to expect in ML interviews. Because if you look at the talent pool in Nigeria, most of them are self-taught data scientists. Most of them didn't go through traditional college or secondary education or post-secondary education. Most of them are self-taught, so it's going to be pretty difficult for them to understand the career side of things, the non-technical side of things. Like, I have to prepare for an interview. I have to prepare for what the interview will bring. I have to prepare. I have to compose my CV and things like that. So I really think these are disparities. If we can solve the problem of helping our stakeholders, our business stakeholders in Nigeria here understand that this is the data science process, this is what to expect, and this is what you shouldn't expect, I think we'll really do a lot, because companies run impatient often.
Okay, so I'm curious to know, like, given that COVID has led to, I guess, a decrease in revenue in general, and companies are presumably like looking to cut expenses over the next couple of months or the next year, for all you know. Do you think that the appetite for data science is going to increase over the next coming years as we look for more ways to make things more efficient, or do you think the appetite is going to decrease to just lower expenses? The focus is going to be on lowering expenses. Like, what do you see being the trend going forward?
No, I think very, very smart companies are looking to very smart companies are looking to go lean a lot these days. And one thing they're looking at is, how can we automate processes? How can we automate a lot of processes, in fact? And it's whether increase in demand of talents for data scientists is actually going to be something worthwhile, because then you have a plethora of data now. As a remote company, you have data coming in. How can you make sure that you are making the right decisions with the data? But then again, you have smart companies like Google automating a lot of things. You have medium scale or large scale enterprises employing AI as a service platforms, or data science as a service platforms, or all of those very automated tools. So it's pretty much led to a decrease in the demand for data scientists. You're not having experts in the space already, not just junior data scientists or roles like that. You're not having to work with experts instead of a more diverse team of data scientists. But I think right now it's still going to be, we are still going to be playing in the space of, let's bring in the data scientists to help us understand what data we have right now. We've gone remote. We now have to understand how we can capture the right data. How we can set up the right infrastructure. What cloud service are we going to be using, or we're going to be doing on premise? How are we going to set up the necessary infrastructure to capture the right data? Because most companies, like I said here, are still traditional. They're still using their typical, IT on-premise systems, and they really don't know how to work with the large amounts of data that are really coming into the company right now. Because sometimes recruiters come to reach us, and most of them are, we need a DevOps engineer, we need a big data engineer, we need a DevOps engineer. Not everyone seeks out a machine learning engineer these days, or data scientist. Most people are saying big data, or an IT ops engineer, or a DevOps engineer. And I think that's where we are starting to see the rise in that talent, because now you're seeing companies conscious of, I'm getting more data than we traditionally used to get. Then how can we make sense of this data? And sometimes you have stakeholders who don't really know how to even do these things. They have to bring in consultants and everything. Okay, consultants will tell them, okay, fine, you probably need some talents you need to set up talents to really make sure that this is something that you guys do in house, or you outsource this particular thing to other companies. So yeah, I mean, it's going to lead to an increase in demand for talents. But then again, you have smarter companies going in and using automative tools and just getting experts to work on problems instead, or outsourcing their projects.
Yeah, I think, we've definitely seen everything you just said, especially the part about the companies being, unsure of, what they need, and the education. We realize that there's another gap to fill in terms of the education on the company side, like training for companies, training for executives, all of that, especially when, I can imagine, that you need data to get you to the next step, but you don't have the data or you don't know what you need to get to that next step, or you don't, what I mean? Like, I can understand the frustration there, but I can also see how that can go very wrong for a company. You hire the wrong person on board, you bring somebody on board who's not the right fit, who can't do what you actually need. That's a waste of money for you. That's a waste of time for that person. It's just, there needs to be some level of education there, or advisory for a company sometimes to know who to bring the right person in. So that's something I'm personally excited to see grow. Like I said, that's why this whole thing is kind of like a cycle. As certain people, as a talent grows, there's more people to be able to advise these companies, and as these people get into these companies, that's more space for these companies to grow themselves. But I kind of want to shift a little bit to the work that you're specifically doing with Port Harcourt School of AI. So you mentioned earlier about it being more of a community than an organization, and we're definitely seeing the power of communities. Especially that's one of the reasons why we wanted this partnership, to be able to build our own community and to learn how to do that, what that means. Can you speak a little bit more about that shift from like an organization to this group effort to advance your mission?
Yeah, absolutely. Port Harcourt School of AI originally was a chapter on a more global organization called the School of AI that was founded about 3 years ago until it's founded recently, in fact. So it was more like kind of like an offshoot of that particular organization. It was more like a community. We had School of AI, we have School of AI Kerala in India. We have School of AI Lagos. We have School of AI in different various cities all over the world back then. And I kind of took up this initiative myself 2 years ago, because in my city there was this in my nation we had a budding AI and data science ecosystem, but that wasn't happening in my state. That wasn't happening in my city where we were. So I just figured, this is actually an opportunity for us to build that community, because we had communities for web developers then. We have communities for Android developers, but we didn't have anyone for data or AI enthusiasts. That we had a budding group of people back then. So I just figured, fine, let's set up this. Let's see how we can, our basic plan there was just run meetups, get people connected, get people learning, and let's go. Just that. And we never really had any plan to expand our field and expand our knowledge. But along the way, we had various meetups. People were very excited about this. We got people started already. We got to the point whereby we had people reaching out to us and saying, yeah, we understand that there are talents in this. We want to see what you're doing. We want to see what they're building. And, the excitement was, good. And I personally was still learning at that time. So, it was pretty difficult, and I was still in college then. It was pretty difficult trying to, juggle everything out. So I never really thought outside of the box then that we should actually turn this into a proper organization where, people can, work together, and, we can have a larger vision or a larger social vision, because, what we're looking at is social impact in society. And as a non-profit, that's our key differentiator from a for-profit business. How can we make sure we're bringing about social impact? That's the full focus of what we're doing. So we just pretty much ran as a community for about 2 years. Yeah, 2 years out to this year, of course. About a year plus. We pretty much run as a community, getting people in the city, running meetups. We had TensorFlow meetups. We had data science meetups, and it actually kicked off a whole, in quote, revolution, because then people hadn't seen such collaboration before. We had people this is a fairly new technology in the city. People got excited about this. We started holding, and this really brought a lot into that particular city, and it was really something that excited us. But then we figured, if we wanted to make this sustainable, it's always going to be good enough for us to turn this into an actual organization, because then we had to spin off from the School of AI Global Community, because that wasn't really functional anymore. That wasn't as cohesive anymore. We wanted to see a way that we as volunteers wouldn't want to waste our time. And also beyond that, more importantly, we want to see how we can, we started this, we have to kind of make this enthusiasm sustainable. And we figured that we're running as a community over a long time, people will burn out. It's not going to be sustainable anymore. So we figured, okay, fine, let's redefine what we stand for as an organization. What are we passionate about as volunteers? We had already gotten some amazing people from the city already to join, who were already working as data science practitioners or as graduate students in international universities from that particular city, based off the community, the resources they shared, or the people they met in the community. They got to have the opportunity to work in top Nigerian companies and even go for graduate studies abroad. So we just figured, okay, fine, let's talk about how we can make this an organization. And we just figured, fine, what we want to do is we want to just exclusively democratize the access to AI and data education for underrepresented groups and regions. So we figured there are lots of places away, even in Nigeria, Mozambique, or Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, lots of places there that people really don't have access to internet connection, and hence don't have access to this data education that we have now, or AI education. And as such, we figured, okay, fine, groups are one thing, even regions are another thing, because now you have underrepresented groups like women or underaged people or things like that. So that was how we had to pivot our mindset and kind of change what we stood for as a community, or kind of enhance, not really change, enhance what we stood for as a community. And yeah, so that's what we're currently working on now, pretty much expanding to other African countries with the sole purpose and mission of democratizing access to data and opportunities. And we're trying to, as young people, we're trying to innovate and think around how we can bring a more innovation for social impact around these areas. So yeah, definitely just getting started as an organization, but then we've just run as strictly as a community over the past a year or so. Yeah, 2 years now. But based on what we've done so far, just to bring out that we've been trying to get experts to do, of course, because I told you we pivoted to remote learning 2020. So we've been trying to get experts from AI, data science fields to kind of lecture people based on a particular curriculum. I'll just put that on YouTube for free, and making sure that people can have access to that world-class education. But definitely we are still going down under, because we are getting our ends dirty and seeing how we can get to remote places in Africa and just some major countries in Africa. And that's why we're pretty much trying to pivot to a proper organization, so it's a lot easier for us rather than just running as a community. Yeah.
Nice. I like what you said about trying to keep the enthusiasm sustainable, because that's one thing I can definitely tell. Meetups are big. The collaboration aspect there. But I was curious about your plans to kind of keep that engagement, keep that collaboration going in an online setting now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very difficult, exactly, because meetups are we are kind of used to the traditional side of things, where we just get to meet a bunch of people. But then COVID happened, and it's pretty difficult to pivot to virtual events where you have to start tracking people. You have to start, before, usually we used to have a hub where we have lots of people, hundreds running into 200s, in fact, where we'll get to meet, because they are pretty much used to that. But now virtual events, access to data is a problem. Internet connection is another problem. So then it's created this larger disparity. And that's really not what we want as an organization. We want to, like you said, we want to democratize the access to data and AI education. So how can we kind of close this gap for between what education is offered and how people receive the education, and not just the education, but how people receive the opportunities. If you don't have access to internet connection, it shouldn't really be a problem. It shouldn't be a barrier for you to learn about data science or learn about AI education. If you don't have access to internet, or if you're things like that, it shouldn't be a barrier for you to get a job in data science or get the opportunities to expand your skills in data science. So these are things we are looking at as an organization, and we're trying to innovate around how we can bring about proper usefulness or proper social impact here. And it's been a volunteer-run thing for over a while now. But we believe that as we pivot to an organization, we believe that organizations like yours and pretty much organizations interested in bringing about social impact in underrepresented regions through data science and AI, we'll be able to partner with them to make this work. Yes.
I think the one irony about the online space is that it's easy to track user behavior, but at the same time, it creates this impersonal barrier that makes engagement an issue in general.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know that as a community, from the shift of having an offline presence, purely offline presence, to this this new world we're living in now, where everything's done online. How are you finding that affecting the student engagement on your side?
Oh, it's really affected them a lot, because now we have situations where people are exhausted. To be very frank with you, we see that a lot. We try to get feedback from people as much as we can. People are exhausted. We used to do this weekly. People got bored of the entire thing, because now it was easy enough for them to kind of diverge from their learning process. And, we couldn't really track people anymore, even as much as we, try to reach out to people personally and everything. But the main truth is people are exhausted. and that's the problem we're facing as a community. Because the community is made up of its people willing to impact, willing to share knowledge, willing to, share opportunities. And as a community, if that's not working fine, if people are tired about, the entire thing, it's always going to be difficult for you to, to scale that particular mission and vision. So I think it's created, like I said, it's created this disparity, this one that we're actually trying to kind of close down. Oh, that's the problem we see when we run virtual events, is that you see a turn up for event A, and then down the line to event E or event F, and you see a little turn up because people are really tired, or people are probably saving money on data. Internet is a problem. They can't afford data anymore. People are affected by some kind of COVID related things, or power issues here, because that's specifically a problem in Nigeria here. People not having power and everything. So it's been very, very difficult to engage in community members during this time. And one thing we try to do is we try to keep ourselves motivated even as volunteers, because that's also a problem for us. You have your daily job you run, and then you're also running a community on the side, and it's always going to be difficult because now the people you're enthusiastic about are not even enthusiastic anymore. So you have to find a way to motivate yourself, motivate your volunteers to just keep doing, and hopefully COVID becomes a thing of the past, and you can keep working again, or you kind of walk around what COVID brings and what COVID has brought per se. So in one word, people are exhausted, and we're trying to innovate around that. Yeah.
Okay, understandable. I think like in my natural state, like I think I relate, like I think it's people like me too, like people like me, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Like I find it easier to engage in the online space because I'm not really a people person in general. So it's easier for me to engage in this world basically.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know that is the lack of engagement from a student perspective, do you think it's purely based on infrastructural issues, data issues, or it's a combination of that, and there's more we need to do as online communities ourselves to make things more bearable for people who are not used to that this kind of world, I suppose?
Oh, I think it's both. I'll definitely say it's both. The idea of having to engage people, probably create technologies around that, or create social engagement strategies or techniques around that. And I also think it's infrastructure. Infrastructure is a key problem. You have people complain that, oh, I don't have data anymore. I'm in a place where I have poor internet. I'm in a place where there's no power. I'm on my phone right now. That's what I'm using to chat with you. No PC, no way to power up my PC to do stuff. But then again, engagement. And I think one of the key things we're trying to do is we're trying to make burst of learning sessions as short as possible. So and that's one key thing. We're definitely looking at how we can make sure that bursts of learning sessions are short as possible. Probably an 18-minute max session or a 10 minutes max session, depending on how we structure that learning, that instructional. Well, depending on how we design the instructional platform or instructional curriculum for that particular program. Well, that's definitely. I think it's definitely that two-part problem. It's definitely the two-part problem, where we have infrastructure being an issue. Definitely we get a lot of complaints on that. But then again, we have engagement problems. People just get bored when it's more than 20 minutes. We see it in our YouTube analytics as well. We see that, okay, there's a surge in about the 10th or 12th or 13th minute mark. And then there's a drop in the viewership because people are always looking at what's the next thing. Short attention span, there's a lot of distractions on the internet. How can we really keep people engaged both on these two fronts? That I think these are problems we need to solve as sectors and trying to improve the data and AI ecosystem in Africa.
Okay, just like looking at how people tend to learn, at least from a personal like what I've seen personally, it seems that like peer-to-peer learning is a very important part of learning. So having your peers with the peers you interact with, which is what the offline does really, really well. You have a personal connection with your peers, and you kind of motivate each other. My question is that I guess like what do you think can be done from a peer-to-peer learning perspective to make online learning more engaging to learners from what you've seen so far?
Well, I think from my perspective, the idea of peer-to-peer learning should be about pairing people together to solve problems and not just to learn basic concepts. So what we've been trying to do with the Harcourt School of AI is focus on, we're not really trying to focus on education anymore, because partnering with organizations like yours, we can really help our learners get up to speed with the entire concept of data science. And but we're also focusing on how can we ensure collaboration, or collaboration that get towards solving problems. And we see that engages people a lot. So if I pair you with this other person in your group, about 3 other persons in your group, and I tell you, okay, fine, this is the problem you're trying to solve with the skills you're learning or the skills you've already learned. This is the kind of problem you guys try to solve. So these are the ways where these are the tools you can use to engage yourself. Just pretty much you're kind of simulating the idea that these guys are already in a company, right? So you're simulating the idea that they're already working for a business already. They're already doing like things like stand-up meetings and stuff like that. And you're telling them, okay, fine, this is the problem you want to solve. Please collaborate to solve this problem. We find that that's a more engaging process than just telling them, fine, this is your study group. Go learn this concept for today, or go learn that concept. People drift off more. But when there's a problem they are actually solving, we see that there's more engagement, because humans are naturally curious, and even more so, we have people here naturally curious, and they want to see the very end of something. And especially if there's a mentor there trying to engage them to the very end of things, it's a lot more efficient than just swarming out there peer-to-peer study groups. We kind of call it peer-to-peer problem solvers rather than peer-to-peer study groups. It makes more sense then, and it drives people more to the end. And eventually, when they complete that project, it gives them the incentive to go on and work on other projects and keep collaborating with people and everything. I mean, if for example, in a business use case, we can have a data engineer someone who is learning data engineering, and someone who is doing pure data analytics or machine learning, and have them work together. Okay, fine, this is the role of the data engineer. It not just helps increase their portfolio or whatever, it also helps give them the sense of, oh, fine, this is how I can work in a team. And this is how I can really engage with people. And for us, that's really what a community is all about: collaboration, sharing knowledge, and solving societal problems. These are things we believe our community is all about, and that's why we try to focus more on that and leave the education side to world-class organizations providing world-class education.
Okay, so I'm curious. Like, I guess there's 2 views that I have internally. Like, there's the one view that it's important to build individual projects, so focusing on individual projects because you want to highlight your skills as an individual to potential employer. On the other hand, it's obviously very valuable to learn how to collaborate with people and to build projects as a team, basically.
Yeah.
How do you strike that balance? How do you encourage students to build their own individual projects to help them stand out, for potential interview with an employer, but at the same time encouraging them to work collaboratively, which kind of resembles what happens in the actual world?
Yeah, I think it's quite important that we understand what the community is there to stand for. Most times, most people blame communities for not being good enough to prepare individuals and prepare individuals for their individual career. And I think that's a wrong approach to really think about what a community is there for. A community is really there primarily for networking and collaboration. If you're trying to be a data scientist, you don't expect that the community is there to really help you, push you individually. A community is there to provide a network for you. It's there to provide the opportunities for you to advance your career more so than you as an individual would. And so as a community, when we try to focus on collaborative efforts, we believe that this way as well, we can also gauge, okay, who is useful, who is very good in and of itself, individually, and who isn't. We're not primarily focused on who the individual is, how good the individual is, on individual level. We believe that, this is the skills you're already learning on your own, because most people are self-taught. We have lots of people in the community that are mostly self-taught. So it will make sense. Again, we are going through, that's a job for educational organizations or using online learning tools to really get that. And what we try to do is, as much as we can, create a platform for networking and collaboration, because we believe these are accelerators for individuals, right? But for the individual side of things, it's all about how much you've learned on your own, And eventually, if you're collaborating with people, you should be able to know that, oh, if I'm collaborating with someone, I should also try to work on myself. Because if these guys are going at the speed of 30 miles per hour, and I'm probably going lesser than that, I should probably up my game. And then you have, with our programs where we try to provide mentorship as well, they also have leisure to reach out to mentors on their personal path. So it's always going to be difficult for us to strike that balance because we can't reach everyone individually. It's very difficult to reach everyone individually, but through collaboration and networking, which I solely believe that those are like the primary roles of a community, we believe that we can advance people. Because eventually, if you're not doing quite well and you see that others are doing quite well and they are incentivized to do quite well, you definitely will try to up your game through the resources. In fact, through the resources that are coming from the community. Because an example that's why I think we will default back to this collaboration, for example, this partnership between our organization and the Gradient Boost. So if it's not working fine, we can tell you, okay, fine, you can probably go through the educational path with the Gradient Boost. And then when you're done with your educational path, you can always come around and join your colleagues, collaborate with them, build projects that impact the community or impact the society. So yeah, it's difficult to strike that balance. But then again, individuals should understand that communities are really there to provide networking platform, collaboration platform, and a platform for them to improve themselves both technically and non-technically, really. Because then in a community, you have the chance to speak at events. That's improving your public speaking skills. In the community, we probably have times where we have talks that's tailored towards just resume building, for example, or what's going on at ML interviews or things like that. So these are things that communities provide, or communities can provide you the individual incentives to really grow your skills as an individual data scientist. And that's why I think data scientists really should understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. And I think one good thing is that you, like you said, the role of a community, the role that you play, and you're not trying to, offer anything crazy. You're not trying to offer them too little. It sounds like you have a very good idea of how exactly to help the exact people who are coming through your doors, which is good. I think to kind of start like tying this together, I think in terms of our partnership, one thing that I'm excited about that you mentioned was on the whole part that somebody could be part of your community, somebody could be one of our students, but how that kind of adds to both sides. So knowing that one of our students is like on their free time on the weekend going to a meetup, going to one of your events, spreading their knowledge, encouraging others, getting a more literal physical pure learning experience, that is a great thing for us. That's a great thing. And then anything they learn there, any skills they learn there, they can take back to their peers in our program as well. Just as anybody who excuse me, on the side of a community member who they want more of an individualized learning experience, so they want to deepen their learning on that side, start working with companies on projects, things like that. They have access to the Gradient Boost in that way. So I definitely see this being a really great partnership offering for somebody who wants to kind of sit on both sides. But then also, like we said, that exposure. So being able to have more of a local impact for our students, but then also for your members of your community to also join our students. So for example, I don't know if you want to talk about like the CBI program or some hackathons, things like that, but I definitely see ways to collaborate and then also get an international spin on things. So for example, getting even companies, or even in your expat community, getting a problem that is maybe not seen so much locally, just to kind of like, challenge your mind, things like that. That's kind of stuff I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You talked about the CBI monthly, which is still in stealth. It's not really something we want to put out there yet, but it's also something we're excited about collaborating with your organization with, in fact, because we believe that this would bring about some sort of revolution to the whole data science and AI ecosystem in Africa, because then there's an organized path for people to, people from the community or away from the community to collaborate with people across various African countries, or various regions, or across ethnic differences, in fact, because one of the key, I just forgot to mention, one of the key reasons why we were very keen on building a community there was that we had ethnic disparities in our city back then. So we saw the community as a way to bring people together. And those were the things our meetups were trying to solve beyond just the technical side of things. The technical knowledge is that how can we bring about solving the problems locally and away from ethnic disparities. So yeah, definitely that's why this collaboration is quite useful for us.
Yeah. To wrap up, Emmanuel or Stephen, do you have any closing wishes, hopes, and dreams that you have for either the collaboration or for just the future?
Yeah, personally, on the side of things, I'm really excited about this. And unfortunately, our community manager is not here, Linda. But I mean, the collaboration is really, it's something that really drives me. Community personally is something that drives me a lot. I've been doing community building for 2+ years now. And I've also been involved in non-profit work for over 4 years. So it really drives me a lot of social impact, and having to collaborate with enablers such as yours, enabling organizations such as yours, it really helps give me hope for the future, because Africa, it's a cliche now that we talk about Africa being a hub of talents, but then again, we have to make sure that we do something even beyond bad governance. Bad governance is becoming something ubiquitous across African countries now. But as non-profits, if we can see ways to enable the work of the government, or personally just create social impact and partner with cause-related partnership with organizations like yours to really help improve social impact. It's really what drives us and gives us joy. And so far, it drives our cause. We're really excited about the future, and we'll just keep working and keep innovating around the block, pretty much, and just keep doing what we can, and hopefully it comes out fine. And we're trying to make sure it does.
Yeah, to echo that, I think that we understand the value of a community in general. I think that the biggest challenge with online learning is that it lacks the personal element to it, which requires the personal element comes with the community. Mm-hmm. And it's very exciting to partner with Port Harcourt, with Port Harcourt AI School, which is that missing part to what we want to build. Really looking forward to seeing how the synergy works going forward for the learners, especially, and seeing how they actually grow from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And going forward, like we said, we're trying to transition into a proper organization. So definitely, probably sometime next year, it won't be Port Harcourt School of AI again, because it's going to be a total rebranding. But then again, people can always follow us on our page, and probably will be in the show notes. And just excited, if you're excited about what we're doing, we love people from various regions in Africa to really join us. We're trying to build something worthwhile as a community, and that's what's important.
Any closing thoughts from your side?
I'm just glad. I'm just happy we did this. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Stephen. It was great. I'm looking forward to what comes next.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jasmine. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the time and everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers.
Bye. Yeah.